bringing the people behind our food to life.
My grandfather, he was a dairy farmer, and then my dad took the farm over from him. Back then when he grew up, there were no milking machines, so it was hand milking. A lot harder work. It's a demanding but an enjoyable lifestyle. You know, it's 7 days a week, it's all year long. The cows have to be milked twice a day. There's some physical labor that you get to do, there's some mental labor you get to do. You know, you get to work with the cows, and they're most of the time enjoyable. And so, you know, I think he came to that whole realization that that was a nice way to raise a family. And I'm glad he came to that realization, because it enabled me to eventually get into farming as well.
And they're all out of kind of the same bloodline.
I often say if you don't grow up on a dairy farm, you're probably not going to be a dairy farmer, because it's a rhythm. It's the rhythm of life with the cows milking and calving and the whole thing. In the wintertime, they're in the barn. When grass isn't growing, if you're not mowing your lawn, my cows don't have anything out here to eat, basically. And then usually March is when we get back out on the grass. And then it depends on what happens in the weather. If it rains too hard, then the cows have to come back up to the barn. And that's what we call the dance, because we'll dance them out of the barn back into the barn as the weather permits. But this time of the year I sleep with my bedroom window open so I can hear the rain start in the middle of the night. So I don't like having to go out and get the cows in the middle of the night, but if it rains really hard, they don't like it. You know, they're not happy out here, and my job is to keep them happy, I guess. They've kind of trained me, I think, not me the other way around. But that's how it is with animals. Anybody who has a dog that wakes them up in the middle of the night understands what that's all about. Cows are pretty aware of where they are on the food chain and things. You know, they know they're prey, not predator. So, you know, that gives them a little wariness, but they're also very curious. And the Jerseys are the most curious of the bunch. This is my superstar cow here. This is Rosie. She's an old girl. She's probably my favorite cow of all times, aren't you, Rosie? She's a great milker, and she's got personality all over the place, and she's pretty cow to boot. She's got everything going for her. My grandfather, he was the one that really, even though he had passed away by the time I made my decision to become an organic dairy farmer, he was the one that really tilted the scales, because I thought about it. You know, he was an organic dairy farmer. He just didn't know that's what it was called and didn't get paid any different for it. You know, because there were no pesticides when he was farming, and there was no antibiotics and no commercial fertilizers, and he grazed his cows, and you know, so that was, I figured, boy, you know, I hope the generations don't get dumber as we go along. I can maybe build on what Grandpa did. My grandfather left a good legacy. You know, I tell my kids, you know, that's the most important thing. Leave a good legacy. You know, leave the people, when people hear the Banson name in the dairy industry, I want them to say, you know, those guys, they knew what they're doing. About 10 years ago, 11 years ago, George Seaman, who was CEO of Organic Valley, came out looking for some farmers and asked me if I'd produce organic milk for him. And I was already grazing and had a real healthy herd. But, you know, you get so stuck in the idea, you know, modern day ag has you believing if you don't use all their lotions and potions, you'll fall off the edge of a cliff. And so, you know, I really didn't know if I could give up antibiotics, and so I kind of held off for a couple of years, and then I finally just, you know, my cousin had, at that time, he has 2 dairy farms, and he had transitioned one over to organic, and he said, well, what are you waiting for? So I went ahead and did the transition, and it was absolutely the best thing we've ever done for our farm. Just the best. I mean, it's been the best personally for my knowledge growth, because I've become about 10 times better farmer since I did that. We milk them in groups of 6, and they get released from the milking parlor and they come right down to the grass, and they'll eat for about 3 hours, and then they'll all lay down and have a little relaxation time, and then they'll get back up and go graze again, and then they'll go lay down again. Then they usually get up one more time and go graze one more time before milking time in the afternoon. And they go up to milk, and as soon as they're done with the milking, they come right back down and start grazing again. So this is efficiency at its best. The cows do their own harvesting. They do their own manure spreading. They do, all we have to do is walk them up, harvest the milk from them, and they come down and do their job again. It's a pretty amazing thing how that's all worked, but that's why grass is so important to cows, because they're ruminants, and that's what they're intended to eat in the first place. And that's what the biology of their stomachs is all about, having that balanced pH. They need a neutral pH. If you feed them a lot of grain, that's acidic. And so the bacteria get stressed. If the bacteria gets stressed, the cow gets stressed. It's like, you put cows on concrete all day long and make them eat high acidic foods. It's just a stressful situation. Once the wonders of pesticides showed up, and the wonders of commercial fertilizers showed up, and hormone treatment, and all these things that could boost your production, it took agriculture and made it into an industrial process, and it's a biological process. And somewhere along the way, we missed that whole idea. And now, that's the wonderful part about organics, is because that is really, in essence, what it's all about. It's about bringing biology back to our food instead of just being about, industry. Anything we do on this planet, we're leaving a footprint. We need to leave to learn a little smaller one. And even though I have large feet, I want to still leave a smaller footprint.